Good morning, all of you. As part of the lecture series, Ethics in Mahabharata, this is the second lecture. As I told in the last lecture, I have two objectives in mind. The first objective is to narrate the story from Mahabharata written by Vedavyasa, because I don't want to deviate from the version of Vedavyasa, because a lot of interpolations, lot of translations have happened for all the stories. And what we are seeing the story in the films, in the TVs and other places may not be reflecting the original ideas that are there in Vedavyasa Mahabharata. So that is why sticking on to Vedavyasa Mahabharata, narrate a story. This is the first objective for those who have not studied the story. The second objective of this lecture series is to take the particular story as a case study or an illustration and try to discuss the ethical issues in that particular story. Today, with these two objectives, I would like to tell a very popular story, the story of Ekalavya. Ekalavya story is known to all the persons. Still, I am narrating it because the story is misinterpreted in different ways. Because story versions, film versions and all these things. So what are the ethical issues here? The ethical issues are basically two ethical issues everybody will be posing for this particular story. The number one is, why did Dronacharya refuse to give education to Ekalavya? Is it on the basis of the caste? If the refusal is on the basis of the caste, it is ethically incorrect. Number one. Second thing is, the Dronacharya has not given education to him. When he has not given education to him, how is it correct to ask Guru Darshana from him? These are the two issues are there. How it is ethically correct? Let us see the story. So in order to understand Ekalavya's story in a broader perspective, we need to see the story of Dronacharya also. Dronacharya story, because Dronacharya is his guru, that is why Dronacharya, little background of Dronacharya story is also important. Dronacharya is the son of Bharadwaja, a great rishi. Dronacharya and Drupada, in the childhood they were friends. And they were studying in the ashram of Agnivesha. When they were studying in the ashram of Agnivesha, Drupada used to tell that once I become the king of Panchala Desha, the kingdom is as good as yours also, because you are my close friend. Like that. So what happened is that once Vidyabhyasam was over, Drupada went back. He became the king of Panchala. Drona wanted to study something more, much more. He wanted higher studies. He wanted to study in Dhanurveda. So he went to Parshurama and gained lot of astras, shastras and all those things, weapons. And he became an expert archer in the field of archery, that is Dhanurveda. He was a very popular person in those days. He married the sister of Krupacharya and had a son by name Ashwatthama. When Ashwatthama was a small child, Drona was such a poor person that he could not able to feed his son also. That is a pitiable situation for Dronacharya, even though he knows all these astras, shastras, and all these things. So what happened is that he wanted to go to Drupada and ask for a cow. For the sake of cow, he went to Drupada Maharaja and reminded him that he is his friend. He was his friend. So then he asked for a cow. Then Drupada told one thing, I am a king and you are a small person. Friendship is only between equals. You are no more my friend. He insulted him. When he insulted him, what happened is that Drupada could not able to talk anything because he was a close boyhood friend. He felt like that, but now he was humiliated. Also treated that you are a small person, I am a great king like that. So he wanted to take a revenge. So how he can take a revenge because he is a great king and he is having a lot of army and all this establishment. So he wanted to have great disciples who have a lot of kingdom. So straight away he went to Hastinapur. At the time, all of us know the story of Pandavas and Kauravas. They were children at the time, still learning archery under the guruship of Krupacharya. And that they were there. At the time, technically, Dhritarashtra was the king. Pandaraja was no more at the time. Dhritarashtra was the king. Since Dhritarashtra was a blind person, Bhishma was taking care of the entire kingdom. This was the story. So what happened is this Dronacharya went there. When he went there, these Pandavas and Kauravas were playing in the field. When they were playing in the field, as we know, the ball went and fell into the well. When it fell into the well, they could not able to extricate it out. And then they were finding ways how to do it like that. They could not able to do it. At the situation, Dronacharya was supposed, he was there at that time. Dronacharya immediately went there on the request of Pandavas and Kauravas. He shot arrows one after another like that. He shot arrows and he could able to take out the ball from the well. The archery was so astonishing. These people were astonished. Immediately they rushed to Bhishma and told, this is how there is a great person, archer has come. He could able to aim astras against a ball and he could able to aim arrows at the ball and he could able to extricate it out like that. They told. Then Bhishma felt very happy. He felt very happy, and what he did was he immediately went to Dronacharya and requested him, why don't you become the chief archer or chief training officer for all my people? There are 100 people, Kauravas are there, 5 people, Pandavas are there, for all these, for not 5 persons. Why don't you become the trainer? Dronacharya agreed because he was also willing to have the same thing only, because with this person's help only he can able to defeat Drupada. And this was his objective. So he started giving education to all these persons. In due course of time, what happened is that he found that all these persons are very great people. And among these people, again, Arjuna was exemplary. Whatever test Dronacharya is giving, and Arjuna was easily passing all those examination, all the tests, what we can call. In all those tests, Arjuna was exemplary. He became the very dearest disciple of Dronacharya. So Dronacharya, on one occasion, he wanted to test his people. He went to a river, where he was taking a bath at the time. A crocodile came and caught hold of his leg. Even Dronacharya knows how to come out from the clutches of the crocodile, but still he cried as if he doesn't know anything like that. Then all people rushed to Hastinapura to bring all weapons and all other arrows and all those things. But Arjuna immediately took out an arrow and shot at the crocodile, and he saved Dronacharya. Dronacharya felt very happy. And the same day, Dronacharya called all his people and told his background story. That once upon a time, I was defeated by Drupada. Not defeated, I was insulted by Drupada. Because of this reason, I wanted to take revenge against Drupada. Can you able to help me once all your education is over? But all people kept quiet, because on those days, Panchala Desha was a very powerful kingdom, very, very powerful kingdom. And Drupada was also a very powerful person. Defeating him is not that much easy task. All people kept quiet, but Arjuna came forward and told, "Oh Guru, it is I am here. I will defeat Drupada and bring him to your feet," like that he told. And he felt very happy. He felt very, very happy. He kissed the forehead of Arjuna and he promised that I am going to make you the greatest warrior among all my disciples. You will be the greatest warrior. You will be the greatest archer among all my shishyas. Like that he promised. When he promised like that, Arjuna also felt very happy. The bonding, it began increasing also. This was the situation. At the time, slowly Dronacharya popularity was also known to many other people. In those days, Dronacharya was it was actually an institute of great learning in Dhanurveda. Dhanurveda, as all of you know, it is a Upaveda, what we can call equivalent to Veda. It involves Dhanurveda, involves mantras and yoga nishta and also Indriya Nigraha. All these things are also required in order to learn all those things. So Arjuna was learning all those things. On some occasions, even Dronacharya was giving some astras and shastras to Arjuna, which he has not given to his own son Ashwatthama also. That was the situation. For example, Brahmashiro Nama Astra. One astra is there. It was a very powerful weapon. The powerful weapon he gave to Arjuna, how to aim it and how to upasamharam. Upasamharam means how to take it out again. This both he taught to Arjuna, but he did not teach the upasamhara aspect to Ashwatthama also. So like that, Arjuna becomes so dear to him. That was the situation. This when the popularity of Dronacharya was going on increasing, many people across the world, across all the other countries, they used to come there as treating him as his disciple. Andhaka, Vrishti clan of people, Yadavas, all these persons came to him. Many persons he taught. Then Karna also came there. He also requested Dronacharya to teach him, and Dronacharya agreed to teach him also. He taught him also. So in this background, on one occasion, Ekalavya came to this place, Dronacharya's place. Who is Ekalavya? Ekalavya is a Nishada. Nishada means a hunter, basically a hunter. His father was a hunter, and he was also practicing hunting only. But he also heard about the greatness of Dronacharya and he wanted to learn this Astra Vidya. So he came there. Dronacharya straight away refused, stating that since you are a Nishada, I am not going to teach you. I am preoccupied with Kauravas and Pandavas only. And this is the exact sentences that are there in Vedavyasa Mahabharata. So since I am preoccupied with Kauravas and Pandavas, and in this, since you are Nishada, I am not going to teach you, like that he told. But that Nishada, he went out. He was having so much of veneration, worship towards Dronacharya that he put a statue of Dronacharya in one place and he started practicing arrows. And he learned the art of archery. How is it possible? Is it possible to learn something without being told by a guru? But this is, I believe that this is actually a upasana shakti. Upasana means there are many upasakas we will be seeing even now also sometime. Because Anjanaya upasakas are there. Gayatri upasakas are there. Dattatreya upasakas are there. These persons will be chanting over a period of months, over a period of years also, or the same mantra, and they could able to gain certain spiritual strengths by means of which they can able to hear the voice of that their particular deity. Even now also this is being practiced because most of us don't believe all this is rationality and all these things, but these are we never practiced and we never tried to do some research over all these things. That is also there. Because we are not doing research in all this upasana and all these things and try to empirically prove all these things. This we are not doing. Because those who have done it, they are doing it silently in some Himalayas and some other places they are doing. That is their great yogis, rishis and all these persons. They don't come for empirical analysis and all these things, which we are also not doing. But still we can able to criticize. That is what we know that is there. We in the sense, normally majority of the people, I am not blaming any one single person. Majority of the people, we are not doing research. Definitely we are not doing research in shastras, upasana and all this. Anyway, he was doing this upasana. When he was doing the upasana, he could able to hear the silent voice of Dronacharya, and he could able to practice very easily, and he became a great archer. This is how it was going on in the forest. Even Dronacharya was also not knowing, no other person was not going. On one occasion, Dronacharya asked his disciples, all Kauravas and Pandavas, you go to the forest and then we hunt animals and come back. Why is hunting? Hunting is basically, even nowadays, if we hunt, people say that hunting is a crime. But those days it is not a crime because there are two reasons are there. One reason is that on those days, much area is forest area only. Only few populated places used to be there and surrounded by many forests. So cruel animals used to come inside the villages and they used to kill the people also they were killing. So it is a duty of the Kshatriya to hunt animals, to go to the forest, hunt animals and save the people from animals. This is one aspect. And Dronacharya idea is something different. That is also there. What is his intention was that these people also must know how to do archery, how to aim arrows at the moving objects. So this was the second aim. So what happened is that he sent all the people. All the people went there. Along with dogs also they went. One of the dogs, it went to Ekalavya. Where Ekalavya was sitting in one place, he was sitting. He was a dark complexion person. That is how it is described. He was putting Krishnajanam. Krishnajanam means the skin of a deer he was wearing it. And he was having lot of hair in his head and all these things. A black color person. He was there sitting in one place. That is how it is described in Vedavyasa Mahabharata. So when this was the situation, he was like that, and this dog saw him, this unknown face, and it started barking at him. When it started barking at him, Ekalavya, what he did was that immediately he took out his bow, because he was a great archer. He shot 7 arrows, one after another, like that, 7 arrows over its mouth, so that it cannot able to bark. The mouth was shut, totally shut. Horizontally and vertically, when he puts the arrows, what happened is that it cannot able to bark. So immediately it came back running. And Pandavas and Kauravas were there and they saw the animal. They were surprised to see the great archery skill of this one, some person who has done this like that, 7 arrows at a time into the mouth of a dog. So what happened is that they immediately came searching for the person. Then they saw one person sitting in one place with Guru Dronacharya's statue in one place, and he was practicing like that. So immediately what happened is that these people went and inquired, who are you, a great archer like that? And my name is Ekalavya. I am a hunter and my guru is Dronacharya like that. They were astonished. They never saw this person because they were practicing with Dronacharya only all these years. They were not knowing. They went back. When they went back, Arjuna saw this. But he remembered one thing. What he remembered was that on one occasion, Dronacharya has told him that you are going to be the greatest archer among my disciples. Then he was thinking, how is it possible that there is one more disciple who is better archer than me? So coolly he went to the place of Dronacharya and told him, Guruji, I have a submission before you. Thing is that you remember, you have promised me on some occasion that I am going to be the greatest archer among your disciples. But today I have seen one more person. Who is that one more person? That one more person is we saw in the forest. He could able to aim 7 arrows at a time into the mouth of a dog. I am astonished. How is it possible that there is one more disciple who is a better archer than me? Because your promise also should stand. No, this is because earlier days when you promise something, that you have to stick on to the promise. You have to remain on your truthful words. That is there. So then I am wondering. That is why only I am asking. Then Dronacharya thought for a while, took Arjuna to that place. Let us see there. He went there, saw that man Ekalavya practicing. Then he went there straight away. Ekalavya saw Guru in front of him. Was very much happy. He prostrated before Dronacharya, took him to one place, asked him to sit in one place. And Guruji, you have come, I am blessed. Then Dronacharya asked, do you feel that there is one single sloka is there? What he asked is that, I will read out that one. what he told is that, 1 minute. That shloka is very important. I read out the shloka. Yadi shishyosi me veera vedanam deyatam mama. This is Adi Parva. Adi Parva is the first Parva of Mahabharata. Adi Parva, 131 chapter, 54 shloka, printed by Gita Press. Adi Parva, 131 chapter, 54 shloka. Yadi shishyosi me veera vedanam deyatam mama. What does it mean? If you feel that I am your Guru, if you feel that I am your Guru, then I am entitled for Guru Darshana. With all gladness, I have to give, because you are my Guru. I can't say that you are not my Guru. Whatever you ask, it is I am going to give. Then Dronacharya asks, give me your thumb, right hand thumb. Without any hesitation, Ekalavya cut off his thumb, because thumb has importance for archery purpose. Thumb is very, very important, because you need to aim an arrow, means you need to have the thumb. If you don't have the thumb and also this index finger, you cannot able to aim the arrow. So when thumb is removed, the archery has gone, as good as that only. But still, without any hesitation in his mind or his countenance outlooks also, he just cut off his right hand thumb and gave it to Dronacharya as Guru Darshana. Guru was very much happy at the sincerity of Ekalavya. He went to him, then he told him, hereafterwards your archery may not be as great as it was earlier. Now I will teach you something, how to aim arrows with other fingers only. Like that, he gave certain instructions, and then he left from that place. Arjuna was also happy. This is the story. Now, once the story is over, lot of questions are there here. What are the questions here? Questions, as I told in the beginning, the entire thing is ethical issues only. What are the ethical issues involved here? The first thing is, normally people will be asking, or anybody will be on the face of it, if you read the story, why did Dronacharya refused education to Ekalavya? Number one, is it on the basis of the caste? If it is on the caste, it is ethically incorrect. Second thing is, how did he take Guru Darshana when he has not taught him? We need to understand this story from the perspective of Ekalavya, from the perspective of Dronacharya, and also from the perspective of Arjuna also. Because Arjuna, is it a jealousy is there on the part of Arjuna? If jealousy is there, that is also ethically not correct. And these are all issues are intermingled in this entire story. Now let us see from the perspective of Ekalavya. Ekalavya went to Dronacharya, asked him to become his guru, teach me like that. Dronacharya pointed blank, he has refused. Since you are a Nishada, I am not going to teach you. Nishada means since you are belonging to the Nishada caste person, I am not going to teach you. This is very straight away he told. Not mincing with words. Straight away he told. But still, he felt that Dronacharya is guru. He kept the Dronacharya Pratima in one place and started doing Upasana for it, and he learned on his own. On his own means here, one thing is that, because as I told in the lecture, in the story, that without Upasana it is not possible. Because sitting here, you cannot able to hear the voice of your guru from some other place, unless you are a great Upasaka. So here you are a great Upasaka. Technically, he is very much concentrating all his indriyas, all his powers, only concentrated efforts, and also treating Dronacharya is the ultimate guru. He could able to achieve this one. So Dronacharya, when he came there, for him there is no problem. He was ready to give. He was very happy to give also. And in Mahabharata, Vedavyasa Mahabharata, it is written that with all gladness, without any amount of any iota of disturbance in his face, he handed over that right hand thumb to the Dronacharya. So from the part of Ekalavya, he never felt bad. This is how it is described in Bharatam. But I am not telling about stories. The stories of Ekalavya is gosh, like that. Immediately he told how then tears will be coming. Then he touch take out his thumb, giving to Dronacharya. This is not there. Whatever that is there in the Bharatam is the simple thing only. He was very happy to give it. So that is from the part of the Ekalavya. Let us see from the perspective of Dronacharya. Dronacharya, why did he not give education to Ekalavya? Is it on the basis of the caste? Let us see. In the same episode in Mahabharata, same Adi Parva, same 131 chapter, we find that Dronacharya was giving education to Andhaka caste of people, Vrishti caste of people. Andhaka caste people, who are Andhaka caste people? Currently they are BCs, backward caste people. Vrishti clan of people, again, currently they are OBCs, other backward caste people. So these people approached him. They are part and parcel of Yadavas, of course. Yadavas are Kshatriyas again. There is a lot of confusion is there. Yadu Vamsha and all these things are there. Still, now these persons, because when we are talking about caste and all this is in the current day scenario, if you say take into consideration, because we are applying the morals of current day society to the 5,000 years back the story also. No? That is why I am telling this Antaka caste and Vrishti caste clan of people are BCs and OBC people. These persons, these kings, when they approached, Dronacharya taught them. Then Karna came. Who is Karna? Karna is a Kshatriya, of course, but in the eyes of the society, he is a Sutaputra. He was known to each and every person as a Sutaputra only. The Sutaputra approached Dronacharya. Dronacharya was ready to take him also. This is one aspect. Of course, what is not there in the story is in this particular 131 chapter is something is also there. That thing is that Dronacharya taught even Drishtadyumna also. Who is Drishtadyumna? Drishtadyumna is the son of Drupada. Drishtadyumna is the great enemy of Dronacharya. The enemy, of course, he is a close friend in the earlier days and he became the enemy, and then all this story is there now because Dronacharya wanted to take vengeance against him. Because of this reason, he nurtured all Pandavas and Kauravas as effective warriors. With their help, he defeated Drupada. When Drupada was defeated with the help of Arjuna, the Drupada went and performed a great tapas. When he performed a great tapas, from the tapas, two persons emerged, and his boon has come from the Ishvara, stating that he will be having one son and one daughter. The son is going to kill Dronacharya, and the daughter is worthy enough to marry Arjuna. Like that. So what happened is that there is Drishtadyumna, son of Drupada. He came. Everybody in the world was knowing at the time that Drishtadyumna is going to kill Dronacharya. Even that person has to come to Dronacharya only for learning. Why he has to come? Because Dronacharya's popularity was such that each and every king across all the places used to come for him only for learning Dhanurveda. Drishtadyumna also came there. Dronacharya never refused. What he told at the time was that if fate is like that, I cannot able to change the fate. This is the exact sentence. So then he taught Drishtadyumna also. He taught Sutaputra also. He taught Vrishti caste of people. He taught Andhaka caste of people. All these persons he taught. Then he refused this Ekalavya. So it is not based on the caste, number one. If it is not based on the caste, then why did he refuse? This is one more question. Why did he refuse? Nothing is written down in Vedavyasa Mahabharata. Simply one sentence only stating that since you are a Nishada, I am not going to teach you. Okay, what is Nishada? Nishada, the very Vritti. Vritti means the way of earning their livelihood is by way of hunting. You are a hunter, so I am not going to teach you. This is the only simple sentence it is there. Then why Dronacharya must have refused? Maybe 2-3 reasons. Number one reason is that a Nishada is by nature, he is not going to protect the society. He is not going to become the king also. He is earning his livelihood by way of hunting. For the hunter, does he require astras, shastras, and all these Dhanurvidya aspects? Maybe that may be one of the reasons why Dronacharya must have refused giving education to him, not on the basis of the caste. The second thing, the third aspect of refusing is maybe Dronacharya, it is his personal choice to accept one person as a disciple or refuse any disciple. Suppose I am there, somebody come to me for education. I may be giving education to whoever that is approaching me, but on some occasion, maybe depending upon my time requirement and all this, is I may refuse some person. Maybe I don't want to teach you. Does Dronacharya, is he not having the right to refuse because he is giving education anyway free only he is giving. When he is giving the education free of cost, is he not having the right to refuse education to some person? You have to think over. The third important aspect is that there is, in management parlance, will be telling there are two hazards are there in life. One is called moral hazard and one is called physical hazard. Physical hazard is something which you can able to perceive on the face, on seeing the face only. Moral hazard is something which we can perceive that it is there, but which we cannot able to explain. I can give you a good example. Suppose you are a company and you are a company, you want to recruit some people. You have given some guidelines. These are the guidelines. You have your certificate should be like this. You should be a degree holder. You should be like this, and you should have so much of experience. Some criteria you have put it. 5 or 6 people will be coming for the same post. You don't give all people. You don't give. You will be giving some people on seeing the face itself. You may refuse the person also. Why you are refusing? Because maybe he may be an aggressive person. By looks itself, you may feel that he is very aggressive person, or he may be going to do some damage to your company in future, or he may not be the right person. Morally speaking, moral hazard, which you cannot able to express. Maybe his countenance, his physical features are such that you may not like those features. So what you will do, you may refuse it. This is called moral hazard, what we can call. Physical hazard is something which you can able to assess. Moral hazard on the basis of your degree certificate and all these things, experience. This is the physical hazard. Moral hazard is something on seeing the face itself, you may feel like refusing him. That is your right. You can able to exercise a company. You can exercise your right to reject a person. Similarly, Dronacharya, he is an institute of learning. He has the right to refuse any person because it is not on the basis of the caste. Again, I am telling, because if it is on the basis of the caste, he should not have given education to Sutaputra, that is Karna. He has given education to Sutaputra, he has given to other people also. Then why he has refused? Maybe moral hazard, or maybe, as I told, because he is a hunter, hunter does not require all these shastras. Maybe these are the reasons why he refused. This is from the perspective of Dronacharya. Then the second important question is, why did Dronacharya ask Guru Dakshina when he has not taught him? If he has taught him, fine, we can agree. If he has not taught, why did he ask? This is the second important thing. The second important thing also we need to understand from the perspective of Dronacharya, if you take into consideration. From the perspective of Ekalavya, we discussed, because he has no problem. He immediately cut off his thumb and he gave it to Dronacharya without any hesitation. Dronacharya's perspective, if you take into consideration, Dronacharya, he asked the very first question he asked with him is that if you are feeling that I am your Guru, then I am entitled for Guru Dakshina. If Ekalavya, had he told that I am not considering you as as my Guru, then Dronacharya has no role to interfere in the internal affairs of Ekalavya. But here he is proclaiming that he is the Sishya. Then Dronacharya is entitled to ask. Then what he asked? He asked Tam. Why he asked Tam? He wanted to de-recognize his skills. He wanted to make him a lesser skilled person in the field of archery. Then here, why he has done like that? I'll tell one more example. Suppose you are a university. Some person approaches you. I want to have an admission for MBBS post in your university. Because of some reason, the university has refused to give him admission. This man went out learned the medicine on his own and started dispensing medicines to all the people. When he started dispensing medicines to all the people, by chance, if he is going to do some harm to the any person in the society, people will be blaming not only the person but also the university also. The university is responsible for giving the degree because he is telling that I am the alumni of that university. When you are telling that you are the alumni of that particular university and you are doing the practice, what will happen? That university will be getting bad name. What is the first duty of the university? The university has to de-recognize your certificate. Immediately come, de-recognize your certificate. How to de-recognize a technical skill like Dhanurveda? So because of this reason, he asked thumb. When he took out the thumb, his certificate is de-recognized by Dronacharya. This is how he has done, because you cannot claim, because my name you should not use for some purposes. Suppose as long as everything is going on well and taking my name is okay. But my brand you are using, when you are using my brand, if something is going to happen, what will be my responsibility is that you should be de-recognized. This is the second reason. Third aspect from the perspective of Dronacharya for the second question is that he has seen, Dronacharya has seen Ekalavya aiming 7 arrows on the dog's face. Suppose a dog comes and barks at you. When the dog comes and barks at you, normally what we should do? You should shout at it and you should send it out. You can hiss, but you cannot bite. But what he has done here, he has aimed 7 arrows, one after another, into the mouth of a poor animal. What does it mean? It means that he is a trigger maniac person. Because trigger happy person. Trigger happy person means, suppose if he is having a bow and arrows in his hands, he may be, his instinct may be to aim the arrows all the time at wrong people also. So what will happen to the society at large? Because you cannot give something great astras and shastras to all people who are trigger maniac persons. Because this shastra, Dhanurveda, you believe it or not, is a great knowledge, a repository of knowledge, which can be given only to those persons who are having Indriya Nigraha, who can display Indriya Nigraha and control over senses, mind, and all these things. But this man, Ekalavya, Dronacharya has seen that he has aimed 7 arrows, which means that he may be aiming arrows at any person also in future in order to save his life. But his life threat is also not there for him. The dog went and it barked at him. When it barked at him, he did not put 7 arrows. He could have put 1 arrow at it and he could have sent it. So what he has done, it maybe trigger maniac person should not be given education. Maybe this was one more reason why Dronacharya wanted to take out the thumb. This is from the perspective of Dronacharya, what I believe. And Dhanurveda, because it's meant only for protecting the society, not to display and giving suffering for the weak animals. So Dronacharya must have perceived some moral hazard on seeing all these things. One is that Dronacharya is aiming arrows and his countenance may be something, we don't know all these things. Maybe because of this reason he must have refused in the beginning. And then he is using his name. All these things are there from the perspective of the Dronacharya. And this is a second way of understanding. The third important compulsion, the reason is also there. That is, what are the compulsions for Dronacharya to behave like that? The compulsions are, he was having some disciples whom he was seeing every day. And he has promised that I am going to make this Arjuna as the greatest archer. Now, there cannot be any archer as a rival center claiming the guruship of Dronacharya without his knowledge. What will happen to his promise? He has to stand by his promise. When he wanted to stand by his promise, he cannot allow any other person to claim same thing. Because suppose that Ekalavya is telling Dronacharya is not my guru, then Dronacharya has no business to ask anything from Ekalavya. But how to keep up his promise? Promise is also important for him. This is one thing. Second thing is that why he is teaching all these persons? He is teaching all these persons in order to take vengeance against Drupada. All these Drona, Arjuna, Bhima, Nakula, Sahadeva, Dharmaraja, Kauravas, all these persons are required to fight. When there is one more person is there, some other person is there, some other rival power is there, then how can he ask? Morally he can ask, because he promised that I am going to make you greatest warrior, and then please come and help me in fighting with Drupada. How it is possible? That is the second aspect is also there, compulsions. The third important compulsion is from the perspective of Sevaka Dharma. Dharmas in Mahabharata are talked in different ways. It is talked. It is Sevaka Dharma is also one of the aspects of the total framework of ethics. Sevaka Dharma means Dronacharya is, who is a Dronacharya? Basically, he is actually he was also a courtier of Bhishma. He was working in the court of Bhishma. Why he was appointed there? He was appointed as the chief training officer for all the Pandavas and Kauravas. As a Sevaka, as an employee, for that matter, an employee of that particular institution, his prime duty is to make all these persons greatest warriors. But there he cannot give education to any other persons greater than these persons. Then Sevaka Dharma, suppose Bhishma knows that there is one more Ekalavya, that Ekalavya is a better archer than Arjuna. Then what he will feel? What are you doing, Mr. Drona? He will ask. So this is not correct. So what is important is that these compulsions are also there. This is from the perspective of Drona, all these things are there. Compulsions are there. Moral hazard he has perceived. And again, he wanted to derecognize the certificate because he is unnecessarily using his name. All these things are from the perspective of Dronacharya. Let us see from the perspective of Arjuna. Is he jealous? Is he jealous? Debatable only, because what has happened is that he actually he was the greatest disciple of Dronacharya, and Dronacharya himself has promised that I am going to make you the greatest archer. Then there is one more archer is there. Then what is wrong in Arjuna asking Dronacharya that Guruji, you promised that you are going to make me a great archer. Now there is one more archer is there. How is it possible? This is how he asked. Is it jealousy? It's not jealousy. It is actually what is facts only he is asking. This is what is there in the ethical issue, the total ethical perspective from the Mahabharata. This is how the story goes. But then why this story has been perverted, stating that this is on caste lines, number one. Second thing is that Dronacharya is a villain and all these things. Maybe because whatever that is taught in the textbooks, whatever we see in films, normally that gets have an imprint in our mind. It will be imprinted in our mind. Suppose if we read our history books from the beginning, all our histories are written like that only. So something will be writing down Aryan Dravidian theories there. We are reading all Aryan Dravidian theory from the beginning, and we are still feeling that Aryan Dravidians are there. Even now also most of the elders who don't read history textbooks and who don't read other things will be feeling that there is Aryan was there, Dravida was there, like that. Why it was done? Britishers have done like that to divide the society. Maybe to divide castes between Brahmins, because this is entire issue is basing on the castes only. Maybe some time back somebody must have devised a plan that this is on the basis of Arjuna, Dronacharya refusing education is on the basis of the caste in order to divide the society, Hindu society at the time. Maybe that may be one of the reasons here, because otherwise if you really read the story, Vedavyasa Mahabharata story, there is nothing here we are finding unethical aspect, but this is how it is there. Maybe this is all these things, the issues dividing the society may be part and plan of the greater narrative that is built up by Britishers, and that is going on. Still, we feel that because even in films also, because normally majority of the people don't want to read the 1 lakh text of Mahabharata. So what they do is that they will be relying on translations, and also films. In films, what they show, the Dronacharya will be coming and asking like this, the thumb. with a vengeance in his looks, then what we feel that this man is a villain, like that. So this is how the story is there. And with this, I would like to conclude this story, this particular story, and also this illustration, ethical aspects, and all these things. So here, I don't have any personal things again in favor of Drona or in favor of Ekalavya, something like that. Ekalavya is also highly respectable person, great he was having rate of concentration, archery power and willpower, upasana power, all these things is mentioned in Vedavyasa Mahabharata. So he is also a great person, but this is the facts are like this. You need to understand this story from this perspective. So for reading this type of stories, maybe if you want to have this illustration also, you can read this story in my blog, unclekatha.com, UNCLEKATH, unclekatha.com. So far, some 84 episodes are over. And Ekalavya story is also one of the stories there. You can read the story also. For broader understanding, there I have quoted all references of Adiparva also I have quoted. You can read it. And I also request all of you to leave the comments. And for my improvement, for improving this lecture series also, because these lecture series are meant for normally management students, and also those who want to learn the story also, those who have not read Vedavyasa Mahabharata. So that is more important. Vedavyasa Mahabharata is very important source of information for understanding our dharmic roots. That is how I feel. So naturally, if you leave your comments, that will be highly helpful for me for improvement also. Thank you all of you.